will find our scripture reading in a Bible or on the front page of your Growth Race Study Guide. It is a portion of Psalm 119, verses 49 through 56. Remember your word to your servant, in which you have made me hope. This is my comfort in my distress, that your promise gives me life. The arrogant utterly deride me, but I do not turn away from your law. When I think of your ordinances from of old, I take comfort, O Lord. Hot indignation seizes me because of the wicked, those who forsake your law. Your statutes have been my songs wherever I make my own. I remember your name in the night, O Lord, and keep your law. This blessing has fallen to me, for I have kept all your precepts. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
When I was a kid, something utterly fantastic happened in my life. The birth of a radio show may not seem like it was this great and wonderful thing to you, but it was to me. It was a radio show that was started by Casey Kasem, called the Top 40 Countdown. And every weekend, I would spend 3 hours listening to Casey Kasem as he counted down from 40 all the way to 1, the top songs of the Billboard chart that week. I had a trusty cassette recorder, just a small little rectangular box. But I had blank tapes that my mom got me, and I would put a tape into my trusty little tape recorder, and I would sit it right in front of the radio. And when I heard Casey Kasem call out a song that I knew I liked, I would hit that record button. And I could record songs for free, all for free, and I could play them over and over again. I could make a mixed tape. I love making mixtapes. See, I can tell some of you liked the art of making a mixtape. I have to admit, I lament a little bit that my kids don't know this art of making a mixtape. It's a playlist, but you don't have to do a whole lot of, you don't have to go through a lot of trouble anymore to do it. Do you remember singles? 45s? How many of you had a 45 collection? See, almost all of us, those little single discs. They were called 45s because it took the disc 45 rotations to make it through 1 minute. And in 1945, the 45 vinyl record was introduced by RCA. And it had enough space on this little small disc to play about 3 minutes of music. So if a band wanted to get their songs played on the radio, what they had to do was they had to make a 45. They had to record a single song that was about 3 minutes in length, and then they had to get it distributed to all the different radio stations and hope that they would play it on the air. See, the creation of the 45 record, or the single, it set the standard for the length of a song. That standard became that 3 minutes that it took for a 45 to play one song. And so bands knew, artists knew that if they wanted to get their songs on the radio, not only did they have to make a 45 and distribute it, but they had to create a song that didn't last any longer than those 3 minutes. All of Elvis's songs were sold on 45s. My mother had a great Elvis collection on 45s. All of Motown records were put on 45s. British invasion bands like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles came out on 45. They all knew the code, and they knew how to follow that code of sticking to the 3-minute rule if they wanted to make it in the Billboard Top 40. And ensure that their music would get heard around the world, played over the airwaves. But there were other artists who just could not seem to follow the rules for whatever reason, even because, maybe it was because they were used to defying rules. They were that kind of band, rule breaker bands. Or maybe it was because they just couldn't write a song and say all that they wanted to say in 3 minutes or less. Those artists like Jimi Hendrix, or the Grateful Dead, Pink Floyd, Harry Chapin, they just couldn't seem to follow the rules, and so their songs rarely got airplay. And they joined the ranks of other artists who were deemed too long for top 40. If you wanted to listen to their songs, you had to buy the whole album. Because on a whole album, it didn't matter how long the song was. But those folks who decided to brave buying that whole album were rewarded with something really amazing. Epic poems that were set to music, that told great and fantastic stories about what it means to live this life that we've been given. Among the Psalms, that book that we call the Songs of Life, there are what we might call the top 40 hits. The 23rd Psalm certainly fits right into that category. It gets more play than any other psalm ever does. Psalm 100, which we talked about a few weeks ago, fits easily into the top 40 hits. It's short enough to memorize easily, and it's beautiful to sing. And then there's Psalm 117. It's a Billboard 40's dream of a song. It only has 2 verses. Only 16 actual words if you read it in the original Hebrew. It's the shortest of all the Psalms. Those psalmists knew how to fit their songs into that rule of writing. But then there is Psalm 119. And like a band that just does not know how to follow the rules, Psalm 119 is like the Grateful Dead of all songs. It is the song that never ends. It is the one with the 10-minute guitar solo in it. Do you know who Don McLean is? Anybody know Don McLean? If you don't know it by name, you probably know the song American Pie. It's maybe his most famous song. And most people can sing the chorus. Bye, bye, Miss American Pie. Drove a Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. You go on and on. But you try to start and sing the whole song, and almost nobody can make it through the entire song because it's long. And it's rambling. And you start out good, and then all of a sudden you can't remember, are these words now or do they come later? And so what you end up doing is you just go back to the chorus and sing that part again because you know that part and you can feel confident singing that part. Well, many people know part of Psalm 119. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. We did it this morning in our prayer time. Most people know those words, but that is only one verse from Psalm 119, and Psalm 119 is massive. It has 176 verses, making it not only the longest chapter in the Psalms, but the longest chapter in the entire Bible. Like those long songs that get left out of the top 40, Psalm 119 often gets overlooked. It's too long to be used as a call to worship. It's too long to have a hymn written and sung from our hymnal. It doesn't get much play in worship services. Psalm 119 basically says the same thing over and over and over again. Oh Lord, how I love your law. But it doesn't do it in a haphazard kind of way. It's a simple psalm, but it is not an easy psalm. It's hard to even read all the way through it without having your mind wander off in other directions, and that's the point, say commentators. The point is to practice not having your mind wander as you contemplate the goodness of God's law. My Old Testament professor, Lisa Davidson, wrote her dissertation on Psalm 119. and she says that this psalm is an incredible testament to poetic skill and dedication. She notes that in the English translation, what gets lost for us is the poem's structure. Psalm 119, you see, is an alphabetic acrostic poem. And that's a big mouthful. So what does that mean? Maybe you remember what an acrostic is. Most of you have probably done one at least when you were in school. Your teacher might have said in elementary school, write your name going down on a piece of paper. And then write a description of yourself next to every letter in your name. So if we just take my name, B-E-T-H, going down, we might say bold, energetic, talkative, happy. That's an acrostic. And we've probably all done one. Well, Psalm 119 is an acrostic poem. And it uses the Hebrew alphabet. 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. And so there are 22 stanzas in this poem, and each stanza has 8 lines. 8 lines that start all with the same letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So the psalm works its way through the entire alphabet. So if it were in English, it would mean that there were 8 lines at the beginning that all started with the letter A, and then 8 lines with the letter B, and we'd go all the way through. And since we don't read Hebrew and we don't know, or since when it gets translated into English, those letters are not the same, it's hard for us to read it as an acrostic, but that's what it is. And as I said earlier, the entire psalm is about the Word of God. All but 2 verses contain the word Torah, or some one of 7 synonyms for that word. So if you read the psalm all the way through, what you notice over and over again is that you are reading words like law, precepts, ordinances, commandments, decrees, words, promises, statutes. It's about the Word of God, but it is not a teaching about what God's Word or God's law is. There's nearly nothing about the content of the law at all in this psalm. So just look at the section that we have on the front of your Grow Pray study guide for a minute. Just these verses 49 and forward. Remember your word, there's that one, your word to your servant, in which you have made me hope. This is my comfort in my distress, that your promise gives me life. I do not turn away from your law. When I think of your ordinances from old, and you see law and statute and precepts, they're all listed there. But there are other words that pop up that are important for us to notice. Words like comfort and hope and blessing. This section of the psalm tells us that God's instruction brings a certain way of life to us. God's teaching brings us comfort and hope. God's instruction is to be a blessing in our lives. Psalm 119, it goes on and on about how wonderful the law is, but it never tells us what the law is. Not even once. If this was the only chapter in the whole Bible that we had, we couldn't construct even one of the 10 Commandments from it, let alone the other 600 something that come along in the Old Testament. What this psalm is an attitude adjustment. It's a way of reminding us who we are in relationship to God. God is our teacher, and we are students, learning how to live a righteous life by following God's ways. My professor, Dr. Davison, worried that Christians would see Psalm 119 with its celebration of the law as being irrelevant to our faith. But she was quick to remind us that we should broaden our definition of the word law. The word that is translated into English as law is really better defined as teaching or instruction. And we still need God, don't we, to teach us the right way to live. We still need God to guide us in good choices. We still need the Lord to instruct us so we know how to take care of our neighbors. So here we have it. The longest chapter in the entire Bible, Psalm 119. It's too long to memorize easily. It's too long to recite in a quick prayer, so it doesn't get the attention it deserves. But this psalm is, well, it's like a vitamin that you take for good living. It's like a routine that you inhabit to help you live a better life. It's like exercise. Reading or praying a portion of Psalm 119 every day, it's a good way to order your life and strengthen you for a lifetime of practiced faith. Your statutes have been my songs wherever I make my home. I remember your name in the night, O Lord, and keep your law. This blessing has fallen to me, for I have kept your precepts. Psalm 119 can be a daily reminder that we belong to God and that it is God who gives our lives order and meaning, who gives our lives stability and sustainability. It is God who gives us all we need in order to live a full and fruitful life. And though it may not ever make it into the top 40, Psalm 119, for those of us who brave breaking it out and listening to it in a long playing form, we know that it is a psalm worth singing. Psalm 119 can sustain us through a lifetime of faith. May it be so. Amen.